All right. So again, Brooke is from CIEE. I think all of you have probably met with Brooke already and talked about your in-person opportunities in London. Brooke's going to talk a little bit about what CIEE does for virtual global internships. We work with CIEE to provide internship opportunities, not just in Europe, but also in Canada and Australia as well. So she might talk a little bit about opportunities, throughout those different regions. But without further ado, I will hand it over to Brooke.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Glad to be here. And I think I recognize almost all of the names in the group so far. So thanks for taking the time to be here to talk about virtual global internships. Good to just have the information, just to have it in your back pocket if needed. So we'll just go through a little bit of what you can expect on our virtual global internship program in partnership with UCLA. But we'll plan to leave time for questions at the end as well. So feel welcome to drop questions in the chat as we go through, and hopefully Andrew can monitor the chat box for me, and happy to take your questions. Here at CIEE, I've worked in internships, in a wide variety of different roles. I used to match interns to placement opportunities here in the Boston area. We have snow today, so it's a winter wonderland outside. And then after that, I moved into a more global role, advising students across our global locations for global internships. Now, supporting institutions and students on both, in-person programs and virtual internship programs as well. So I am your go-to on any, pre-enrollment questions, about any internship programs with UCLA and CIEE. So feel welcome to reach out if you have questions after this, and happy to help. So to jump right in, hopefully I can advance my slide here. Here we go. Just want to kind of go over the inclusions of the Virtual Global Internship Program. It's an 8-week program starting, mid to late June into mid-August. So I have those dates listed for you. The primary component of the program is a project-based internship. So that internship will be about 200 to 240 hours total. This averages out to about 25 hours to 30 hours a week. We source English language internship placements for the virtual global internship program. If you do, however, have a language that you're learning, whether it be German or Spanish or what have you, and you're interested to apply those skills in your internship placement, we're happy to take that into account, assuming that you have proficient skills that can be applied in a professional manner. But most often we're sourcing an English language project-based internship opportunity. Included in our program, you'll move through our personalized placement process. And so really that is a curated process where we work with students one-on-one to discuss your goals and interests as a first step in our process. So we want to get to know you, get to know the skills that you currently have and the skills that you can apply to an opportunity, and the skills that you want to, gain exposure to development opportunities. And we really want to have an in-depth conversation with you about all of your goals and interests. Based on that conversation, that's how we'll then target our outreach to potential partners for your internship opportunity. So that personalized process is super helpful in making sure that we're lining you up with a perfect match for your internship opportunity. We start with student goals first, and then look to meet those with our partner network, or potentially do outreach and make new connections based on you and your goals. As a part of the early program process, we also provide resume and interview coaching so that you can move through the next steps in the process after that one-on-one meeting with ease. So during that one-on-one meeting where you discuss your goals, you may also receive feedback on your resume, or you may also receive some guidance that, hey, in a couple of weeks, let's meet for a mock interview to make sure that you're feeling confident moving forward into the interview process. So resume and interview coaching is pretty much provided on an as-needed basis, but if you want to lean into the opportunities to have a mock interview, or have any coaching on either topic, we're more than happy to support and help. So always feel welcome to reach out. Also, pre-program or pre-internship, if you will, we also send out a skill assessment. It's about a 30-minute skill assessment. So if you've ever done, Myers-Briggs, kind of similar to that, it's 30 minutes, and it will result in a really helpful report that kind of highlights your key motivators and your behaviors. This skill assessment can be helpful to leverage in your interview process, and it can also be really helpful to leverage in the early weeks of your internship as well, as you're looking to set the stage for success, communicating with your supervisor. It highlights your communication style as well as communication styles that you may mesh with well and those that you may have trouble working with, and strategies for you to be able to communicate successfully across different styles. So that's a useful tool, especially early on in your internship. As we approach the internship start in the program itself, you will have a virtual orientation where you will meet with the rest of the cohort and the internship placement team here at CIEE to just set the stage for success in your virtual internship. So during that virtual orientation, we go through best practices for having a successful remote internship experience. You'll hear from an industry expert that has actually supervised and hosted interns for us both in person and virtually. So you'll get tips from an employer. And we also highlight, how to successfully set SMART goals as well, which will hopefully help you keep on track throughout your internship experience. Throughout the internship, you'll have ongoing internship support. So after orientation, you're definitely jumping right in and diving into your internship, but we are still always here to help. You'll be working with a great internship placement team, primarily based in Berlin, but supported by colleagues around the world in Santiago and the Netherlands and Rome. So you'll have a really dynamic group of folks from CIEE here behind you, available to support you throughout your internship experience. So whether you're, facing any challenges in your internship and you're not sure how to move forward, if you're facing any, communication challenges with your supervisor, or you're interested to pitch a project, but you're not sure how to pitch a project, we're here to help, offer some advising on that so you can make the most of your internship experience. We love to hear feedback, whether positive or negative. A positive is always great for us to hear what you're working on, and it helps us understand how the experience is going to be beneficial for students in the future. Any tips that you would have for interns in the future at your site, all welcome feedback. And likewise, if you're facing any challenges, it's hard to get in touch with your colleagues, anything like that, let us know, because that negative feedback allows us to step in and support you, and work directly with your supervisor in the company. We typically try to advise around, giving you strategies to be successful in your internship to overcome those challenges, but we're also there and available to support you, by stepping in and acting as a third party to support, positive improvements at your internship if needed. Also included in our program, we offer online workshops throughout the 8 weeks. Usually this ends up being about 5 to 6 workshops. In addition, there's also, drop-in check-ins, like social hours that we have as well. So there's almost a weekly opportunity to connect with the cohort and to connect with CIE staff, either through a workshop or a check-in opportunity. Of course, you can always ask for something additional as well. But the workshops have been really exciting. I've been able to drop into a few myself. For the workshops, we bring in professionals and industry experts from a wide variety of different industries and topics. So we try to keep it general so that we can support as many interests in the workshops as possible. So you'll see topics pretty similar to those that are listed here. So how to build an entrepreneurial mindset. This is helpful, even beyond just folks that are interested in becoming an entrepreneur or working in a startup or having a startup of their own. There's a lot of, beneficial outcomes of using an innovation framework in an organization or a business as well further down the line, in terms of how businesses continue to innovate from within, if you will. So definitely encourage everyone to attend that workshop. We have a great speaker from London, Gosport, that runs that session. We also have topics, relevant to the remote workplace. So intercultural learning in the remote workplace. How can you reflect on the intercultural exchange that you're having, even though you're at home in the virtual format? how can you still be reflective and notice those cultural nuances between your host employer and your colleagues and what you may experience here in the States. Organizational culture and leadership is also a really helpful workshop as well, where we tie back in that skills assessment that you did earlier in the program and see kind of how you're leveraging your leadership style and your communication style within the organization with which you're interning. And then we have some hot topics, sustainability in the workplace. We're seeing, a lot of students looking to enter their career field and have a real focus on, um, working with a company or organization that has a sustainable initiative. So we do cover that as well. And then AI and automation, kind of looking at how the future of work may look with technology being leveraged so often. And then towards the end of the program, we also circle back to Gosbert, who starts us off with the entrepreneurial mindset. And he does a great session on expanding your business network through LinkedIn and leveraging your LinkedIn account to really expand your network. So this is going to be really important for you as you look towards graduation and look towards applying to future jobs and making connections for your future career. So those are a couple of examples. Workshops do tend to change and ebb and flow, and we're always welcome to hear from students what topics would be of interest. So definitely feel welcome to send along feedback early on, and we'll see if we can wrap in a topic either into a future check-in or what have you. Another opportunity to engage that's included in the program is that we do organize a Slack channel in order for the cohort to be able to connect in the remote format. So everyone is invited to the same channel, and there we, send out workshop reminders and post the workshop recordings. A lot of our speakers actually end up jumping into the Slack channel, ready to answer any of your questions or engage and network further. We also welcome, students to share their successes at their internships there, share their challenges, and, lean into that group to, talk about how students may be able to overcome their challenges in their internships or come up with new strategies. It's also a great way to connect with other students that may be interning in a similar area and allow you to make connections and network across your internships and across your colleague networks. So definitely encourage, engagement in that Slack channel. It's also really helpful to just have a space to connect with other folks during this time where we're all at home. So I know screen time is certainly high these days, but I encourage you to lean into that Slack channel to just have that cohort to lean into and have, peers to connect with that are going through a similar experience as you. Also included in our program is evaluation. So we check in with you at the midterm to make sure everything's going okay, and check in to make sure that you're reaching your goals and maybe reframing them if necessary based on the time that's remaining. And then at the end of the program, we have formal written final evaluations that we ask both yourself to complete and your supervisor to complete to just document your performance at your internship. And following receipt of the employer evaluation, then we provide a certificate of completion and a digital badge, which you can add to your LinkedIn to, blast out to your network your success on the program and at your internship. If anyone has any questions on the inclusions of the program, I can stop there. Are we seeing anything pop in to the chat, Andrew?
Don't see anything in the chat yet, but it's a small group, so if you have any questions, feel free to send it in the chat or, pop in. We'll have a Q&A also at the very end as well. So if you want to wait till then, that's fine as well.
Great. Yeah, so I'll move forward just to kind of give a quick overview of some of the locations in which we work. So we have opportunities in Canada, Europe, and Australia. So just dropped the cities that we have a employer network within. So really we encourage students to come into this process for the virtual global internship program with a bit of an open mind on locations and really wanting to put at the forefront your academic and career goals. However, like I mentioned, we're happy to take into account, preferences for location, especially if you're learning a language and want to apply those skills, or you have a particular interest in a particular region or country or city. So definitely let us know in the process, your preferences, but just an open mind can be helpful to make sure that, we're exploring all of the possible best options for you in these areas. One of the key kind of things that I'm asked first and foremost is, I'm based on the West Coast. How on earth am I going to do an internship in London or Berlin, and connect across time zones? So navigating time zones is certainly going to be one of the like foremost skill development experiences that you'll have. I recommend bookmarking a time zone converter so you can easily keep track of where you are and where your colleagues are. Super helpful tool to have on your browser dashboard. But ultimately, you'll be connecting at minimum with your supervisor once a week. I would say most interns are connecting more often than once a week, but that's the minimum expectation and requirement for both yourself and the supervisor. So that will be at a mutually beneficial time. So since most of you guys are based on the West Coast, that means you're going to have an early morning meeting, and your colleague, across the pond is going to be having a late afternoon, evening meeting with you. So it's important to just keep in mind that you'll have to be flexible, and your supervisor will also be being flexible as well, to make sure that you are able to connect for that weekly meeting. You may be asked to come into additional meetings with the wider team and colleagues. I would just take those opportunities on when you can. But if it causes you to need to be on at 3 a.m., it doesn't make sense. So, feel confident in, setting boundaries with when you are willing to hop online to connect with the rest of the team. Communicate that early, and any conflicts that you may have in your schedule. And then hopefully your colleagues can move any team meetings, towards the later end of the day, for the case of Europe, so that you're able to attend. Um, you know, Beyond those mutual meetings with your supervisor and potentially larger team meetings, you'll then be working on your internship projects really on your own, and proactively managing those in your own time zone. So while you'll connect, for meetings across time zones, otherwise you'll be working in your own time zone and project managing your assignments on your own. So it is pretty flexible in terms of, going across time zones, and it's a great way to still build your resume with global experience on it, even if, you're at home in this format. So hopefully that's helpful, and is one of the most frequently asked questions. So just wanted to touch on that. A couple of tips for success in the virtual format. I would say communication is always going to be important in an internship, but it's even more important in a remote internship. So I encourage you to communicate early and often with your supervisors about your projects and how they're progressing. Don't be afraid to ask questions via email. I just recommend, having a really concise format in terms of end of day. Here's the progress I made on my projects. Here are some outstanding questions I have, or roadblocks that, I'm having trouble overcoming, and seeking support on that front. So just make sure that you're communicating with your supervisor, you know, either via email or chat, whatever they prefer, and keep the progress going on your projects. Likewise, if you're going to be juggling this experience with other obligations or other courses or what have you, you'll want to communicate that schedule to your supervisor at the start of your internship as well, just so they're aware of what else you have on your plate. It's always better to communicate early and highlight any challenges or conflicts that you have in your schedule, rather than it is to say, I'm sorry, I missed the deadline. It was because of XYZ. So always let folks know ahead of time, so that it can be built into any relevant deadlines for your internship assignments. I also want to just encourage you to communicate your challenges and your successes. So I think students often, communicate when they have questions or uncertainties, but then, don't let folks know when they finish something, or they made a new client connection or things like that. So definitely encourage you to, as often as you may ask questions, also, hype yourself up and be like, I finished this project, I'm ready for the next project, and really just communicate, when you meet deadlines and complete assignments, because otherwise your supervisor won't know, because you won't be next to each other. So, just, it may seem, silly to say, but make sure that you're communicating things that are, positive, as well as any challenges. Um, Time management and project management strategies are going to be your friend throughout this experience. You likely have already, come up with some strategies that work for you throughout this year. So, lean into those strategies that have worked for you, and do some reflection around, what might be helpful for you in an internship moving forward. It's, ever more important, to be able to look at your big project that you may be working on, and be able to break it down into smaller pieces, and to build out a timeline for the project with those smaller components broken out. So I definitely recommend, in the first week of your internship, kind of looking at the big picture and breaking it down into smaller components, and, having a time map for how you're going to be able to complete the larger projects. Because as time kind of progresses, the timeline may start to slip away. So if you've broken it down into weekly goals, daily goals, it's, much easier to keep it on track. It's always good to be a proactive self-starter in an internship, and, be one that takes initiative. I would say you're going to have to do that even more so in a remote virtual internship. Raise your hand, offer insights, offer, ideas, and point out any challenges that you've noticed, and really be willing to, jump in with your ideas. And don't be afraid to propose projects if you've seen something of interest. Definitely let your supervisor know. And most often, our supervisors are super flexible to find a balance between your goals and, business and organizational needs at that time. So, take the initiative to communicate your goals in the internship, and, raise your hand for things that you want to jump into. As for building connections in your internship, you'll have a direct connection to your supervisor, of course, but you'll want to find ways to connect with the broader team and introduce yourself. So if the team has, a shared Microsoft Teams chat or Slack channel or whatever they may have, make sure that you're getting in there and you're engaging. And don't be afraid to ask folks for, 15-minute coffee virtual sessions as well, to make sure that you're still, expanding your exposure outside of just your supervisor relationship. And then, lean into the cohort of peers that you have, again, that will be connecting with you throughout the program. That's going to be really helpful to just, have a peer that you can touch base with every so often, and, communicate what's going well, and maybe have an opportunity to vent and think about strategies on how to move forward. And then, of course, utilize CIEE for support. So we don't know that you need help until you tell us. So definitely give a shout if needed. So I'm just going to now share a couple of potential placement examples. Forgive me, the slide is a little bit messy and lots of words on it, so apologies. But I did want to just share a couple of potential options for you. We haven't had a ton of students in kind of the academic majors that this group represents participate in our virtual global internship program yet, but we're excited about having students with your interest areas jump into the virtual format, and definitely have employers that are excited to offer interview opportunities and internship opportunities in this area. But I did want to highlight one of our alumni, Madison. She is an ASU student and studying IR and political science. So you may notice some affinities between maybe your interests with her as well. And she has a blog on our website as well, which you can definitely click into so you can hear her story from her perspective. But she interned with the Institute of Political Marketing, which is based in Prague, in the Czech Republic. She had a really interesting internship. It was in the late summer of last summer, so we were still very much in the US election cycle. And one of her main projects was monitoring the US election and providing weekly briefings on US politics to the founding member of this group. And the other big assignment that she would work on is projects around increasing women engagement in politics and women running for office in politics in the Czech Republic. So she was able to learn how to research and apply for grants and gain a skill of grant writing, which she hadn't done before, and really assist on virtual events that were focused on bringing more women into the political space in the Czech Republic. So definitely a mix of kind of research projects as well as writing projects. This group also does a lot of marketing around folks getting involved in politics in the Czech Republic as well. So some marketing and communications exposure there. So that's one example of a student that had a related experience that may be in line with their goals. Then to the right of the slide, I've just pulled out 4 of our partners that have been offering interview opportunities. We just haven't found the right student, so maybe that right student is you. So a couple of examples, the Development Media International, these are all London-based, by the way, Standing Together Against Domestic Abuse, the Hunger Project, and WaterAid. You may have seen some of these on your examples for in-person internship programs in London. And I just wanted to, highlight that they are, actively offering virtual internship opportunities as well. So just to kind of go through a couple of, examples, a lot can be research-based in this kind of umbrella of academic areas. So for Development Media International, we've had interns contribute to different review research assignments on different kind of sexual and reproductive health topics in West Africa, and helping on a variety of different campaigns around these research topics, and increasing education and advocacy around sexual and reproductive health. Standing Together, we've had interns there working to have interagencies work on this topic of domestic abuse. So this has been an area that we've seen a lot of students be interested in over the time. So if you happen to have interest into like justice studies, or you were interested in going to law school later, this is kind of a good example of ways to get involved with a nonprofit organization that's working in an interagency capacity and looking to provide guidance, research, and data around the topics of domestic violence and domestic homicide as well. The Hunger Project, we've had students intern there in person, and we're hoping to have someone match there for a virtual internship as well. They always have a lot of great opportunities around fundraising and development and grant writing. So if those are skills you're looking to add to your resume, definitely a good potential option, as well as opportunities around marketing and communications campaigns. They typically have, event planning interns in person on the ground. I'm not sure if they'll be doing any virtual events, but potentially also, virtual event planning could be possible there as well. And then WaterAid, we've often had a variety of different roles there, but the one that tends to be the most consistent is the corporate partnerships. This is a great opportunity to, build your network, because you'll be networking on behalf of the organization, but you can also be networking on behalf of yourself as well. So always keep that in mind. But a lot of, research and, cold contacting for potential partnerships, really looking to find an affinity between the organization and potential partners to make sure that, the corporate social responsibility is in line with both the company or the business that you're seeking to partner with, and the ethics and mission of the WaterAid organization. So hopefully these are helpful as like some ideas. What I would say is like your placement process is going to be unique to you. And so, we'll speak with you one-on-one as a part of the process to learn more about your interests and your goals. And then based on that, we'll look to see if our network has a great fit for you. And we'll also, of course, also be willing to do research and outreach to potential new partners based on you and your goals as well. But just wanted to share some examples of, roles that we've seen available that may be of interest to this group broadly. So hopefully that helps. So that's all I have for prepared information for you today, but I'm happy to take questions now. And this is just a screenshot of a couple of our interns with their supervisor and teams connecting virtually. So just wanted to share that it is happening. Connections are happening in the remote format, and lots of positive experiences coming out of it. So welcome questions to come at this time.
I was going to jump in real quick before we go to questions.
Sure.
And so thanks again, Brooke, for presenting on virtual opportunities with CIEE. As mentioned, I know all of you are currently enrolled in a in-person program in London, and so you've had the opportunity to meet with Brooke prior. We will be letting you know about the feasibility before the end of the month for in-person programs. So part of the reason for presenting on virtual, so you have a general idea of, should in-person not be possible, what are the virtual opportunities and what that program might look like, and if that's something that would make sense for your academic and career goals. And so we'll move into questions. I'm going to stop the recording now before we move into questions. But again, thank you, Brooke, for that presentation.